This is the new Piaggio MP 3 Sport 310, and it is not only the cheapest Piaggio three-wheeled scooter, it is also generally one of the cheapest three-wheelers on the market, and I think it is even one of the best. Why? You will get the answer in this video. So a very warm welcome to 1000p STV with the new Piaggio MP 3 Sport 310. And I really want to stress the word sport because this is the sport version. What do you actually get for that at Piaggio? More power? Bigger brakes? No, what you get is style and equipment. For example, here we have a matte blue paint job, which I find really nice. Then there are blue accents on the wheels, blue stitching on the seat, and as standard you also get the Piaggio Mia connectivity system. That means I can connect my phone to show calls and messages on the display. Let's first place it in the lineup. I already mentioned in the intro, it is the cheapest MP3 because it is also currently the smallest. We have the 310, then comes the Piaggio MP3 400, and right at the top, the 530. We already have a test video of that one online, so if you are interested in more power, check that out. But this one is definitely the smallest of the bunch, and you can also see that in the price because here in Austria, as it stands right now, it costs 8,799 euros. If you take the standard version, it is 8,599 euros, so a difference of 200 euros. And that makes it not only the cheapest Piaggio scooter, I had a look around the market, it is in fact the cheapest three-wheeled scooter you can ride with a Category B driving license. The only thing below that is the Yamaha Tri-City 125. That one you can also ride with a B license, but only if you have the extra B111 in Austria or the B196 in Germany. I keep saying that you can ride it with the B license. What does that mean? It means you can ride this scooter with nothing else at all. No B111, no B196, no A1, no A2, simply the normal car license. And for that, a vehicle has to fulfill two conditions. First, the track width at the front has to be more than 46 centimeters, which the Piaggio has. And second, it must have a foot brake that acts on the front as well as on the rear brake. So these two features are mandatory so that people with only a car license can just get on and ride. Before we get to the ride impressions though, I want to show you the scooter in more detail, go through the features, and for that let's do a walk around. Let's start here at the front of the Piaggio MP3. The design is very striking, always reminds me of Sebulba, the Star Wars pod racer character, the coolest villain in episode 1. No, actually the coolest was Darth Maul. Anyway, it reminds me of Sebulba. What we do have here are LED headlights, and in the cockpit I can switch between just the daytime running lights down here or the full headlight with dipped beam. Personally, during my test rides, I always went with dipped beam. Firstly, because car drivers see me better when I have more light up front. And secondly, because we don't have automatic lights here. So if I set off at night with just the daytime running light on, it does not automatically switch me to dipped beam. You notice it quickly, but purely for safety, I think it is better to ride with dipped beam on. Moving further down, we have the front suspension. Naturally quite a complex system from Piaggio, but in short, both wheels are suspended separately with an individual disc brake per wheel, and the whole thing is controlled from above by the mechanism that locks them in place. It is a brilliant system that works really well, really mature engineering from Piaggio. Let's move on to what you could almost call the passenger compartment on a scooter like this. Down here we have the already mentioned foot brake, which acts on the front and the rear. With my size 43 shoes, it works fine. I can still move comfortably. In fact, while riding, I often just rested my foot lightly on it, so I was always ready to use it. Then just behind it, there is another lever, and at first I thought that was the coat hook. No, that one is above. This lever is actually the handbrake. Pull it up, and the scooter cannot roll away anymore. And the best feature about this is if I lock the steering, then the handbrake is locked as well. That means if I park it like this on the street, nobody can roll the scooter away. It is secure, and nothing can happen. Step up a bit higher and we have what is a proper cockpit with different buttons left and right. Here you can unlock the seat, here you can access the fuel cap. There is also a dummy button, probably from another model, but here the panel has just been reused. On the left side we have the hazard lights and the headlight switch I mentioned earlier. The handlebar itself is thankfully kept fairly simple, so you're not overloaded with controls. On the right we have the control for the front suspension. That means I can lock it when riding below 15 kilometers per hour and then unlock it again. Or if I set off in town, the system unlocks by itself and the wheels move freely. There is also a mode button. No, it does not change riding modes, even though it sounds like it. It is just for switching through the display to see rev counter, current fuel consumption, average fuel consumption, so it only says mode for the display menus. On the left side, the controls are classic, dipped beam, high beam, horn, and also the button for the connectivity system. With that, I can scroll through the Piaggio Mia so I can connect my smartphone to the display. Let's go further back to the heart of any scooter, the storage space. There is a big compartment here, still has a McDonald's receipt from last week inside. You see, I really used it in daily life, the tough daily life of a 1000 PS editor. Inside the storage, which is lit, you can fit quite a lot. I would still recommend bringing your helmet with you when you test ride. I tried it with several helmets, open face with chin guard, those all fitted. But with a sporty full face helmet, the seat pressed on top and it didn't fit. So if you go for a test ride, check if your helmet goes in, just to be safe. In front of the helmet compartment, there is some more room for a jacket, gloves, things you normally carry. So storage space is good on the Piaggio MP3. And in the front, there is even a small glove box. I did not notice it at first. Luckily, a Piaggio staff member at Faber showed me a small but elegant glove box. The space is limited though. At the back, it goes in fairly deep. A small phone like an iPhone 15 fits, but my Samsung S22 Ultra does not. But at least there is a USB socket at the front so I can charge the phone. Finally, one perhaps banal but still important feature, the main stand. Let me just push it out of this rain gutter first. It is very practical with the front locked. You can even push it like a shopping trolley or like a cool US rapper filming a music video with the scooter rolling along. Anyway, the point. This scooter weighs 235.5 kilograms, measured by us, and it does not have a side stand. So you can either park it just with the locked front, or you put it on the main stand. And that works incredibly easily here. I was really convinced. The weight distribution must be so well sorted that you can just rock it up. Of course, the center of gravity is quite low as the tank is built into the frame. But honestly, a main stand that works this easily is a real highlight. I never thought I would say that in my career at 1000 PS, but here we are. All right, so now we all know the features and equipment of the Piaggio MP3 Sport 310. Time to talk about riding it. And I want to do it a bit differently today because my very first test ride started on the motorway. So that's also where I'll start here. The 310 engine from Piaggio is well known. You'll also find it in the Vespa GTS 310. It is a widely used unit. It delivers 26 horsepower and 27 Newton meters of torque. And all that on a measured live weight of 235.5 kilograms. Sounds heavy, but the engine actually surprised me. On the city motorway, no problem at all. Up to 80 kilometers per hour, it gets there quickly enough. You can keep up with traffic just fine. And when you take it onto the big motorway, yes, it still manages. 130 kilometers per hour is doable. With patience, you might even see 140. But at that point, the engine is clearly at its limit. You feel it, you are fully on the throttle, trying to catch every bit of slipstream just to flow with the traffic efficiently. Overtaking at those speeds is really not possible though. The power is simply not enough for that. Still, for cruising along at 120 to 130 kilometers per hour, it is okay. What does stand out negatively on the motorway, however, is the big bodywork up front. There was no better way to solve it, but the downside is you are very sensitive to wind. With side winds or strong gusts from the front, you feel it straight away through the handlebars, it gets a bit unsettled, and that doesn't make you feel particularly safe on the motorway. One last point on the motorway, the wind protection. Around the legs it is fine thanks to the wide front fairing, but up top with the relatively short windscreen, it is worse. The wind is directed right into my face. So short stints on the motorway are possible with the MP3, but once it gets longer than 5 to 10 minutes, it becomes tiring and uncomfortable. For me, that means this scooter is best suited to country roads. Long motorway trips are not what the Piaggio MP3 310 is made for. But really, the Piaggio MP3 belongs in the city. That is its true home, and that's where I tested it most during my week with it. And of course, in the city, the double front really stands out. That parallelogram suspension shows its strengths. Each wheel has its own suspension, connected by the parallelogram, and as you can see right now, I don't even have a stand down. The scooter is just standing on its own, and that is a real comfort feature, especially when rolling up to traffic lights. Below 15 kilometers per hour, you can lock the parallelogram at the front. So you roll up, press the lock, and you don't even need to put your feet down. It does take some practice though, I admit, so take your time, get used to it before jumping straight into heavy city traffic. But once you get the hang of it, you can approach lights with real confidence, gently modulate the foot brake, lock the front, and just stay put. Speaking of the foot brake, let's talk about the brakes in general. Like any classic scooter, you have the two levers on the handlebar, right for the front, left for the rear. But you also have this already mentioned foot brake, and that one acts on both wheels at once. During my time with the MP3, I got used to riding almost entirely with the foot brake. I only kept my fingers on the levers in case of emergency. But for everyday cruising through the city, I simply used the foot brake. It operates both wheels and leaves your hands free, so you can concentrate on the other controls on the handlebar, like the indicators or the front lock. That foot brake is a genuine comfort plus, something I really made use of in daily riding. And comfort is really the big theme here. Riding the MP3 around town is genuinely comfortable. I ride scooters a lot, and every time you hit a manhole cover or road markings in the wet, you normally get that uneasy feeling because you know it's slippery. But with the MP3, you don't have that problem. Two front tires means if one slips, the other one saves you. Riding on rails, as they say. And that really applies here. Of course, it feels different from a normal scooter. The extra weight and the geometry at the front takes some getting used to. But you gain a big margin of safety in daily life. And the best thing is, the handlebar is not any wider than a normal scooter's. So even though the front looks bulky, you can still filter through traffic just as easily. That's a huge plus. Where the comfort was a bit less convincing was the seat. It is nicely designed and in principle comfortable, but the seating area is quite limited. There's a backrest at the rear which holds you in place when accelerating. Good, but it also means you can't really adjust your sitting position. I am 1.75 meters tall, and for me it works fine behind the bars. But taller riders should definitely sit on it first, check if their legs fit with the bars, and the same goes for the footboards. With my size 43 shoes, it's fine. I can also use the foot brake without trouble. But with bigger feet, it could get tight. And stretching out your legs isn't really possible. So your riding position is quite restricted. Behind me though, the passenger seat is large. Riding two up on the MP3 is absolutely possible just because of the available power. I tried it several times with colleagues during the week, and today as well with Julie behind the camera, who joined me for the filming. It works, but she did have some criticism. For one, the grab handles are quite solid, but also a bit sharp-edged, so that might bother some people. And the wide bodywork, under which the storage sits, you feel it on your calves. So passenger comfort is fine for short trips, but whether you do a long holiday ride on it, that's another question. Julie behind the camera is shaking her head. So yes, better for short journeys. One last comfort point, the suspension. Here you do notice that this scooter is placed in the more affordable range. It is stable, no instability, but it is not the most refined suspension either. Sharp bumps go straight through. In the city, you hit manhole covers, speed bumps, things like that, and you feel them quite directly. But if you use it mainly for short trips, just getting quickly from A to B, I think that's fine. So let me slowly come to a conclusion about the new Piaggio MP3 Sport 310. But before that, something very important. If you only have a B license and you buy this as your first scooter, your first step into this type of mobility, then please do a rider safety training. Yes, riding a scooter with only a car license sounds wonderful, but it is still very important. Take the time, spend the extra money, and do a safety course. Even if you've been driving cars for many years, the physics on 2 or 3 wheels are completely different. You need to learn it, get used to it, so go to your local automobile club, book a course, and do that training. Then you won't regret buying one, and you can ride it safely and with real enjoyment. Now finally, the conclusion. At the very beginning of the video, I said this scooter is not only the cheapest, it might even be one of the best. And in my eyes, it actually is the best 3-wheeled scooter you can buy right now. Why? Because it gives me enough power for the city and for short motorway stretches. I get the brilliant Piaggio technology with the lockable parallelogram front. I get all the features that are simple and intuitive to use, and I get a fantastic price to performance ratio. In Austria, 8,799 euros. Compare that to other 3-wheelers, which often cost well over 10,000 euros, and you see that this is a real deal. So for me, this is currently the best 3-wheeled scooter you can buy in 2025. Do you agree with me, yes or no? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you have experience with such a scooter, let me know as well. I'd love to read through it. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next video. Bye and take care.